Okay, today's gonna be like a little bit a different episode. It's almost like the Orgrimmar one, where there'll be these little like breaks between like 3 or 4 episodes. So this will be more like an RP thing. So for people, this is like a very intrinsic YouTube kind of series, like where people can skip through because there's a lot of stuff in here that people might not like, so they can obviously just skip this one. But there'll be like basically very little combat. And it's kind of a good time because we'll use this as an excuse to sort of like we're introducing ourselves to our pet. So we had our first good night's sleep since we got here. Even better than maybe what we ever had in Orgrimmar, like an actual human bed. We got spoiled because the other 2 times we had to sleep on the rug, and that's like a very intrinsic RP moment for a troll. Like, oh yeah, undead don't have to sleep or whatever, so they don't have a bed prepared for you, of course. Like in Brill and stuff, or like we had to sleep in the other house because we're not allowed to sleep in inns because we can't get rest. There's a lot of different criteria we have here. But what I like about this too is it won't even let me just sit here and sort of introduce myself to my pet and tell it our background because right we just sort of met and it doesn't know everything about us. I got to get it to like stay in one spot, like right by the fireplace. Here we go. So like we just met it, we don't know it super well. And so that kind of builds loyalty and trust. But there is a mechanical thing that'll actually force us to do something, and we can't just sit here the whole time because we'll have to feed it or it'll get upset. So we will have to go out farm some bear meat. I don't know if I should do that first. Yeah, let's actually do that right now. We're not in a town actually, so I can't change my tracking. That's another rule. We have like a million rules for this series, but this is kind of emblematic of how I like to play stuff. Actually, you know what? Like, what if we just let the pet rest there? I think it'll despawn though. Like, we want the pet to just take a break and not fight, you know? The stay mechanic is not something I really ever thought about this much, but it's been pretty useful so far. I've been using it a lot just so it doesn't go in and aggro stuff. So what we really want here is some prized bear meat. We're level 17 and we're basically ready to go back to the Barrens. I didn't even, or go back to Duratar, show off our pet to our trainer. That'll be like our justification. We haven't learned spells in a while. But like anytime I switch zone, it'll be like for a good justifiable reason. So it's been a while. I could have gone back, just to learn level 16 spells or even level 14 spells. I don't think I learned. So everything sort of has a rhyme and a reason to it. Yeah, we got to spoil our pet with some meat. I even put a spoil condition on the meat, like it doesn't last till the next episode. So I always have to get more or I have to do something else. Buy it fresh. Just like a lot of things to make it so everything isn't too easy and you kind of have to work for it. We kind of wanted the pet to just relax and not have to kill anything, and the one thing I'm stingy about is I don't want to let it eat I guess I don't even have to feed it yet, but I would always overfeed it on my first hunter. Not that that was just a very brief experience. Because I thought, oh, that'll make it take longer before I have to eat again, which I don't know if that's actually how it works or not. Faithful. He leveled up way faster than I thought he would because... Oh yeah, and it's still wolf because we kind of want to distance ourselves from getting too attached to it. There's even an explanation for that. You might think, why in an RP series would the pet not have a name? Of course it would have a name. Let's just let him relax for a few fights. But the reason why is because, yeah, when we give it a name, it'll be too attached to us, but then we're afraid to lose it and potentially have some drawbacks. So I feel like 5 of them should be more than enough, 5 or 6 of them. I kind of loot like that just in case I don't want to pick up something. In fact, I don't have room. Oh, you know what? So let's pretend, okay, 7 of them are spoiled, but now we have a stack together. I kind of forgot about that because we didn't, I guess, sell anything. We could go to the Sepulchre for that. You could sell off the meat and then get a whole bunch of new ones. It's kind of a good thing to do, right? Like, that's a survival element, which is very intrinsic to a hunter that no other class would have to worry about. And those kind of mechanics are the best. Like, that has nothing to do with, being, classic WoW. It just has to do with general RPG mechanics that get stripped away over time. Like, even having to repair gear is like an old school kind of idea. Just like little things that seem inconvenient, but they can be valuable because they make every little aspect of the game feel meaningful. Of course, we'd never have to worry about repair too much because we can't die. This is still a perfect record. In 4 runs, but see, I didn't do this sort of element to it in those ones, but it feels fitting. like being so slow paced and immersive with it. Um, but no, I still have yet to die. I've done 4 hardcore runs, and 3 of them I completed successfully, and this is the 4th one. And I've come very close to dying in this one, countless times, but already. But that's just how we're gonna play it. And our pet's gonna look at us curiously and wonder, like, why do we keep taking all these risks? Why don't we just let the pet tank? Why don't we do this and that? It's like chat, like, oh, there's this more optimal way to do stuff, but you don't need to do it. That's the thing. Like, we don't turn down the challenge. I'm already in RP mode, but we gotta get back there to do it. It seems right to do it, you know, even in the same house. It seems to be stuttering a little bit. I don't know why sometimes it does that. Of all the games in existence, it really shouldn't. Or you could take it even a step further and say, like, you can only sell stuff. I'll just pretend like that part of the meat is contaminated. But yeah, let's see what he says here. I forgot that he had that option. Are you interested in exploring one of these dungeons? Or maybe it's only because I got to level 17. That's like the entry level for it. Wailing Caverns was a dungeon I didn't even know existed for a super long time when I first started playing the game, because nobody gave a shit about it. The first one I did was SFK, and then I did obviously all the stuff on Alliance side. So I thought SFK was like the first, you know, entry level Horde one, equivalent to like Dead Mines. I didn't know it was actually Wailing Caverns, because it's so like labyrinthian and inconvenient, right? Nobody likes it at the entrance, but it has an amazing bow, you know, just context of a hunter. I forget what it's called, like Venom Strike. Entrance at the Lushwater Oasis Southwest Crossroads in the Barrens. Recently, a night elf druid named Neralex discovered a network of underground caverns within the heart of the Barrens. Believing he could use the cavern springs to restore the lushness to the Barrens, the druid began siphoning the energies of the fabled Emerald Dream. His vision somehow became a nightmare, however, and he became... Soon the Wailing Caverns changed into a den of vicious, deadly predators. It is said that Neralex still resides somewhere in the labyrinth, trapped beyond the edges of the Emerald Dream. He doesn't show much animosity, though. Oh, if it was a Tauren druid, he would have never done that. It's totally the fault of, you know, him being a night elf. But there, he was pretty objective. He just told it kind of straight. Disciple's Gloves is trash. Why didn't I sell some of this stuff last time? And like some of these rules, even that I say, like, I haven't consistently followed them the whole way, but at least the very important ones I have. But it's just, in principle, I really should do it as much as possible. This you could technically use at some point. That maybe has some like sentimental value. Like, it feels bad to get rid of greens. And of course, we can use the bank, but I can't just use it. Or you know what you should almost do? That's a good element. Like a realistic thing. Every bank should have its own spot. So like Thunderbluff has to be separate from the other one. So you like buy the bag slot and put a bag in there, and that'll count for only certain ones. The base bank can be just Orgrimmar, the whole full page. But it's going to be so expensive buying those other slots that it's almost pointless. Cooking smoked bear meat, that would be a nice little treat for the pet, but I don't even have the ability to learn it. Although we could make it there in the house. Kind of stink it up and ruin the next person's sleep. Yeah, most of the stuff I wouldn't even want to sell necessarily. Gypsy Gloves is better, but I guess the statting is fine. Like, oh god. This is to put like the hardcore tag, I guess, over yourself, which I haven't done. Like, you have to go on Discord and do something stupid. Why was I thinking about keeping that? Oh, I was almost saying exactly that. Like, you have to sell it, like, think about it like Elder Scroll style or Fallout style. You have to sell it to somebody who reasonably would have use for it. So, like, it has to be like a armor vendor for armor and stuff like that. So that guy has to do with food. This actually did give me some pretty good stuff. +4 stamina, +5 agility. Yeah, and we had the chance to get 2 of them last time, so I don't even see what the point of that is. Yeah, like 1 for each foot. Do it even more literally. Every time you get boots, you have to get 2 of them before you can equip it. You can come up with a million different things. Like, the point of a lot of them is just that they make sense. I didn't even see that one there. A lot of them make sense within like a real world application. I shouldn't be able to buy stuff back either. I just did that to switch it. Switch who we're selling it to show that. Yeah, save that to level 40 when we can use mail. There's a lot of cool things a hunter can do that you maybe don't think about right away. Like, we can dual wield obviously pretty soon. I mean, we're almost level 20 already, and I've barely done anything. Like, I just did Duratar and this, right? Like, I didn't go to the Barrens. I didn't go anywhere else. I came straight to Fall, and then I went into Silverpine, and I've barely been in Silverpine for too long. So the rested experience here we can't avoid. The sound is always so creepy in a house if you sit there for a long period of time. There was especially that vibe in Duratar. I'm just sitting in a random house and it's playing like this horror movie serial killer music in the background. Like, I don't know. It almost is like Encourage, what you hear there, but it was even worse than that. Yeah, that has to do with the one guy. What was I thinking that I want to keep? Oh, just like the armor value. I guess I don't care, but it feels a little bit strange. We could also just dump the bandages. Although I don't have a stack of them, I could just make them. So let's switch to beast tracking just for the sake of it. And we could also cook for it if we had bear meat, but actually we just sold sort of the spoiled one. See, all these things could have been mechanics too. Like nobody would have complained like if that was the case. Not only do you have to feed your pet, but you have to preserve the meat, like either you put it in the bank and that counts as like a fridge or something, like that keeps it safe. Or you just have to use it before it goes bad. There wouldn't have been anything wrong with them having a mechanic like that. I almost do want to learn that and feed this guy some top tier stuff. I don't know how much of a difference that makes, or if you have to like feed him higher quality food later on. I really don't know how it works, but it's not a bad thing to keep that, I guess, for now, since I don't have a better recipe for it. And that is like one of those endless money schemes, right? Like, just make a ton of bandages and sell them. Like, you're getting more net positive money than you would get otherwise if you just... Dead feels like I won't worry about all that. This is the sort of thing people either love or hate, but that's kind of the series in general. People always want to turn it into an ego thing, but like, even if it was, then I guess I've already satisfied that pretty well. I never even said or thought they were too hard. Like, that's in a way like, oh, I'm making it harder, way harder in a lot of ways than it needs to be. You could even say like, oh, just don't get a pet either, but I guess that's just to flesh out the character's class. Like, the whole point of a hunter is to have a pet, but it's also to have range. It's almost like, you know, I have to choose one or the other. I actually don't know what I want to get next, so I was just kind of leaving it. Against beasts, giants, and dragons. Like, this is such a raiding type of thing, right? Like, why would you ever use this out in the world? Like, how many of those things are you gonna face, especially at a low level? The traps are gonna be cool. More than likely, you should put points in that. The immobilize is cool because of how much I use wing clip. In fact, I almost use it like once per encounter. But in fact, a lot of the bears are down there too, so maybe I should have just done that. Kind of just want like 5 and that should be enough. Look how long it's lasting even on its own. Or this makes it easier to track, and of course the humanoid tracking is always good because of Sons of Aragorn. That almost did save me. So if you were any other class besides that, you wouldn't be able to do that. Yeah, he's just taking a break. We're sort of spoiling the pet and letting it live the high life. It slept on a fancy human bed. Now it's gonna have all the meat it could wish for, and then we're gonna tell it some nice stories about our background to allow us to really get close to it. Because again, we did just relatively I should go across the bridge. We did relatively just meet. Yeah, this part, yeah, haha, meet. This part wouldn't even be necessary to do if it wasn't specifically for the class that we're playing. So how intrinsic is that? By trying to get to know our pet and not do anything this episode, we still have to go out and fight stuff just because the pet requires it, just because that mechanic is tied to having to get meat. Some of this clipping I don't really remember ever seeing. It's not like, oh, rose-colored glasses nostalgia. That just seems bizarre. They had 20 years to fix this, and yet you chose multi-billion-dollar company Ryan Gosling moment with Avatar font using Papyrus. Like, you had 20 years to fix this, the greatest game of all time, all these accolades, and you could not stop that from clipping through the fence. So where is the bear? They should nothing here at all. Of course, other people are killing them, so that's not one thing I really wanted to have to account for. Like, that should really have nothing to do with the run, because sometimes people will help you, sometimes they'll hurt you. They're trying to buff you into all this stupid stuff. Fuck. This is a prime place to try to get them, especially when you're restricting yourself from the wargs, because you can't you know, you don't want to encourage cannibalism. We're not like a undead here. We kind of look down upon that aspect. And they haven't been the most hospitable to us either. And we're almost in the friendly zone, which would allow us passage into the Undercity. That would be sort of the unlock condition for that. Whereas the other ones are already fine. That seems like a good way to actually say it. Right? Like it just doesn't even let you go inside until you are at least friendly. The drop rate can be a little bit annoying. I was having that issue last time too. So the point is, once we have like so much money, we can just decide to, you know, buy the meat at the beginning of every episode if it's an issue, or it's not really a big deal. Like, look how long it really lasts without needing that. I love doing this wing clip as just extra DPS, but it's very mana inefficient. But then again, you're not really doing anything with your mana either. So once we get traps and stuff, I forget how much exactly those cost. You go from trying to tank for the pet to not even using the pet at all. Like, why is that doing so much to us? It's getting us like to half. It's only a level 12. I guess the one thing that's really lacking is my weapon. Oh, we have the fish here too, but that's just to save space. Already dual wielding. This is really bad, and so we hope we get like a green two-handed axe, which I am able to use right now. That would be, yeah, I'd have to skill it up, but it's actually dangerous. Can barely kill a level 12, which is maybe not that hard to believe, but whatever. Yeah, it's not really giving me much meat. I got some at the beginning there, but then I consider that contaminated by the other stack. Oh, come on. Shouldn't be this hard to do. That's pretty much all that's here, too, are just the bears. Yeah, why do I feel so much weaker than even normal? I wasn't relying on the pet's damage that much. Or it's going to get really hard to keep aggro from it. Like, I'm trying to protect the pet, and, like, I'd rather die than put it at risk. So you might question that. Like, not only do I not want it to tank, but I also am going out of my way. Like, I want to use Mongoose Bite and mitigate and sort of use what's the other one? Counterattack. An ability that I barely even knew existed because I don't think anybody ever used it. You know, like, you face them a lot in PvP, but you don't really know, I guess, how everything works, like with their pet and stuff. But, like, there was so many beast mastery. That was actually something that triggered me as a mage. It's not that you couldn't beat hunters, it's you couldn't beat beast mastery hunters because you couldn't do anything to their pet, right? It just becomes immune to all your CC. So literally you could polymorph the hunter and try to deal with the pet, but sometimes you just couldn't. It was really, really annoying. But no, I mean, aim shot was broken so much so that they made it like banned in battlegrounds, which I don't know exactly how you even do that, but there was sort of an honor code that people just wouldn't use it, or like in Twink BGs. I don't think it was ever banned in some sort of official way, but I barely have bag space despite having every bag slot, which is a little bit surprising. There's no shortage of bears, but the only reason why I'm going to need this is because of how long it's taking me to kill them in the first place. Like, ordinarily, I might not have needed meat at all. I don't want to have to keep going out and back and forth. I'll get as many of these as I can. This is kind of a good way to encourage grinding, too, in a way that otherwise wouldn't be possible or wouldn't be justified. But at some point, the experience is going to dry up. But so far, it's been so smooth. In fact, many would say I'm over-leveled or doing it in such a way as to encourage that, but I certainly don't avoid putting myself at risk either. Not that you have to, but just out of a sense of honor and make it interesting, I obviously do that. Now, these ones start to get a little bit tough. Let's see if I can handle it. Or I would have to, like, use my racial. You might question it, like, wow, I'm 4 levels higher, but I did get a green axe to drop, but the problem was I wasn't able to... Well, first of all, it's not a super high level, but second of all, it's in the bank, so I wouldn't even be able to use it. But that's really what I want. Either I get one from some random quest drop. See, like, why is this one not putting up as good a fight as the level 11 or the level 12? Those are actually doing more. Our mitigation is quite good. Those would be a couple Mongoose Bite counterattacks back to back. And of course, fighting lower level stuff helps you with that too. Our crit chance is like 25% with Raptor Strike and Mongoose Bite. Increased damage dealt to beasts. I guess you kind of forget about that sometimes. The regeneration can be amazing sometimes. Make like a spirit warrior build or spirit even hunter, just anybody. It will actually matter in longer fights. That little bit could be the difference that keeps you alive. Like, in fact, those times that I've gotten to like 1 HP almost, that would have been the difference, because even whatever tiny amount is giving you is going to be all important. 16%, but that's with the aspect, right? And I forget how that works. And then dodge, okay, so 16, and then parry is pretty much always around 10. In fact, if anything is going to go down, right, like your gear isn't giving it to you, your agility doesn't give it to you. It almost should, because of how big a mechanic it is. You know, one of your major attacks as a melee hunter is going to be about that. You know, agility gives you armor, but it doesn't give you parry. So yeah, as you level up, that goes down, and I don't know what's going to counteract it to go up. So we're going to end up only having 5% just from that. I've only really used those 7 bombs. I think I made a stack of 20 super early on. I haven't tried to level that up in a while. We respect not killing critters because we obviously love the wildlife, although some of these you might be putting out of their misery. Like a plague rat. Okay, here we can use berserking. I'm not really getting too many, am I? He's been happy for quite a while though, so I guess it's okay. If we just fight our way back, that should be good enough. Yeah, I kind of like this as sort of an interlude, intermission type of episode. Every once in a while, like every 5 episodes or something, we can do that. And so the Orgrimmar one was definitely... Hey Blizzard, how's it going? Was definitely like that, like a 5-hour madness of just talking to every NPC. It's not like I'm not familiar with the Horde cities, even just from attacking them, or even just from, you know, low-level characters that I definitely did. But it was more like... I don't know, I never did it that thoroughly. Even the Alliance cities, I didn't necessarily do that thoroughly. At least right away, where you talk to like every single person or do it all at once and stuff like that. Which is exactly the sort of thing I would do in a single-player game, so why should I do it any differently? Is he like being deprived experience by this, or... But yeah, he went from like 11 to 16 in the time that I went from 16 to 17. Which is kind of hard to believe. I thought he would catch up, but not that much. Or I guess part of it was just I was killing lower level stuff, so... It was giving me even less proportionally. This is kind of a pointless thought to have too, because I'll never be able to make that unless I like re-roll to an alchemist, which I shouldn't be allowed to do that either. Like I'm happy with engineering, which I never really use. You might think it's associable with being a mage, but I was kind of too lazy to even worry about it. I was like a tailoring enchanter from most of what I remember, but I probably switched around a bit. Money has been maybe more of an issue than you would think, because, you know, even without using the auction house, I guess it's a double-edged sword. You're not going to make money from it either, but there's not that much stuff to spend money on. It's just, even learning spells can be so difficult. They won't even let me RP in peace. Just get rid of the stupid, or just give me the stupid meat. Yeah, I definitely don't want the pet to take aggro most of the time. And so we have one that doesn't have a taunt ability, although I guess I didn't know that going in. That might have changed my opinion, or I could have just turned it off, obviously. But what does happen is, yeah, look how good this is, too. The next physical attack. Like, it's so fitting that we want to play as a melee hunter. But no, we might not be able to hold aggro because the pet's going to keep getting stronger. And it's like the pet is meant to hold aggro even if you're using range and all your ranged abilities. But we're not even doing that, so... It'll be even harder to hold aggro, but I guess between counterattack and mongoose bite, yeah, this has been really annoying with crashes. Not just even this game, it's just in general. A lot of stuff you wouldn't expect to crash. It'll happen in some high leverage moment, and it's going to be very disappointing to see, but not much I can do. A lot of crits for specifically 69. I think I was saying that even last time. We were seeing some of the same values over and over. So it's very hard to find this, or maybe the giant ones have a bias towards getting it. Yeah, if only I could do the warg meat, or if only I could keep it through episodes. This is what add-ons really should be for, right? To create these other kind of mechanics that you otherwise might not have. This would be how you would make like a true hardcore RPG type of experience, not because, oh, it's even so hard, Why am I dodging like when it's already dead? It says that was like a delayed bugged interaction. Yeah, there's so many things we could have potentially gotten as a pet. So we got this just like love at first bite as soon as we enter Silverpine Forest. And I was thinking like, you know, one of the least desirable ones would be like a spider. If you get a spider as a pet as a hunter, something's wrong with you. Or like even in real life, some people like that. Like they have a tarantula as a pet, or like a snake or something. Like, I'm not saying I dislike them that much, but I don't think I would want to keep one as a pet. Of all the things in the world, yeah, just move to Australia and you can get one the size of your whole lower body, and it's all hairy and stuff. That is one of the things. I'm not scared of spiders, but I'm scared of ones that have hair. It just feels so unnatural. Or like there's one that looks like a crab. It's like one of those Ohio memes. Like instead of Ohio, it's Australia, where there's like all this wilderness that's uninhabited that has all kinds of creatures that you would only see in horror movies or something. We're up to 3. We're gonna have to feed it like twice just to satiate its appetite. It's almost like I shouldn't be allowed to put it in the green, but no, I'm not gonna do that. But then again, that might become a meta thing later. We'll always keep it in the yellow but never in the green, so that it always is never so happy that it's doing too much damage and thus pulling aggro. That's the level that we can maybe get this to, where we have to metagame it that much. We're deliberately holding back. But no, after the traumatic experience we had with starving the other one, not deliberately, there's no way we would do that. Like, that's why he left us. The raptor technically didn't die, but I count it like it died. And, oh my... What happens when you don't have the humanoid tracking? Wow, that was really close. And obviously being such a high level, the aggro range is expanded. Or even if not me, then the pet could have that experience. Now, what you could do, which you should never think as a hunter, is you could sack the pet, try to get away. But even then, you might still not, because, you know, maybe you're a little tankier than I give you credit for. Like, you won't be able to fight it or kill it, but you can still get away. Or I don't have like a... Don't you just love that random wandering elites, like the one in Duskwood could be a real beginner's trap? That's what you need to do, is like a first playthrough permanent. There could be more of them too. I don't know exactly how they work. That's exactly the kind of shit that gets you killed. It's just so random and has nothing to do with anything. And he'll pat through here, but it's kind of hard, I guess, for him too because of the water. He won't just... or you get kind of desensitized, because yes, that one looks bigger and stands out, but like, oh yeah, it's just another moon rage, whatever. So give me just 2 more. I shouldn't really have to... Oh my god, that's gonna start to be the wargs though, or like this camp is a little bit scary. Where's the bears? I see the bears on the thing, but here. That's actually how we started. The first meat we fed him was his own kind, like cannibalism, which is a realistic thing that wolves do when they're really hungry. Even in real life, like they will cannibalize each other, but, or even in the native, you know, National Geographic Azeroth edition. But the fact of the matter is that, you know, we're trying to sort of reject that, whether it be because, oh, the voodoo do that and we're not a bad troll like that, or just in general, we kind of reject the undead way of doing things. How close we see that. That literally could just do you in. Like, at least once we have feigned death, I'm not going to worry about it too much. But I wonder if this is sort of depriving him of experience. But it doesn't matter because he caught up so well. Let's actually see that. He's at 1067. Not that I'm trying to do it, but I just thought. I'm trying to just let him rest. He has 50 training points, which I haven't used at all. We'll use it once we go to the trainer, so I'll just pretend like... Or I could just deliberately sort of sabotage him. Just to... Oh no, he's still getting experience. So... Let's like right on top of each other. There are still bears here. I thought they were mostly under past the bridge. That's why I sort of felt like, oh, this top part is useless because it's only the wargs, which do drop meat, but what was that? Oh, that one looked kind of bigger. Yeah, those ones have sort of a darker tint to them. The Sons of Aragorn, obviously. And it's not like a rule that you can't use tracking that way either. like to read it, although I almost thought about doing it like that. Yeah, this was a weird place to rest too, but technically anywhere that's like inside a building is safe. So you can, sleep there. I can't sleep in inns because I don't want to get arrested experience, but I have to sleep in like somewhere different every episode. But, oh, that's almost what I was gonna say. Like, oh, maybe I misjudged this. I was gonna say like, oh, I would stay in here the whole time, but I can't do that because or maybe there should be an exception. No, I don't know. I actually kind of forgot about that whole condition. This episode almost doesn't count because it's supposed to be... Yeah, you know what? It doesn't count. This is one that we're not doing anything, at least if we're adventuring. So that should be enough food to keep him. So now let's do our nice little... Spend some time by the fire and get to know each other. He's been out in the wild, been through a lot. He could have been killed by some random adventurer just like us, just like how he killed some of his own kind. So that's kind of a good rule too, is just... He won't face me though. You're already having taming issues. Like he doesn't like me as much as he seems to, or he doesn't understand this sort of sentimental part of it. Like just go out there and fight and just kill. You're sitting by the fireplace, sharing with him the reality of our journey and everything we've been through. So let's see. See, this is a good sort of story device, right? Like in a long TV show or in a movie or something, like you introduce a new character and then that character asks the other characters or learns from them about their past or something. So it's not just like, oh my goodness, you're turning to the camera and saying, here's this exposition detail that we need to tell the audience, or whether it's something they've seen before and you're just recapping it, or whether it's something you just never knew in the first place, like something from some of the characters' youth. Instead, here you would be doing it like, okay, we met this guy, so we got to tell him stuff about us, or we happen to, tell me about this or that, because you're doing it for their benefit, not for the audience's benefit. So you're at least justifying it within the context of the story. And then, there are always those recap episodes, like if it's a long TV show, so there's kind of some good and bad ways to do that. Like, I think of like the one from Full Metal Alchemist was pretty bad, a Brotherhood, where Hohenheim just gets drunk and he's kind of hallucinating, like a dream sequence equivalent. But the better example could be something like, again, what I was talking about, like, oh, in the Truman Show, not that this actually happens, but like he meets his dad after a long time, or like you meet some long lost person that you haven't met in 20 years. So now you got to catch them up on everything that's happened in your life since. So that would basically recap the whole series up to that point. Like, I've done this, and I had this girlfriend, and we broke up, and I almost died here, and stuff like that. We've had a lot of close calls, a lot of brushes with death, like they might have had too, as they're fighting for their life out in the wild, right? The laws of the jungle and nature and Darwinism are something hunters would certainly respect. So I always love this whole Alt-Z thing. And you even get the crackling, the like ASMR episode. It's just pretty good. So I'll make an exception to the sleeping rule, because this isn't really an episode where we're doing anything. You know what's going to happen though? He's going to get unhappy with me. Just as I'm saying that, we got to keep him fed. Every once in a while, I'll keep checking that, I guess. Yeah, I don't know if you overfeed them, if that actually adds to how long it lasts. It almost feels like it must, because look how long he lasted, but I don't know if I did that. We almost died to a mighty crocolisk in the South Fury River in the Barrens, just because water was our Achilles heel there. Even though we're a troll and we live in the Senjin village and the Echo Isles, and we sort of mastered the way of water, we were still a little rusty. So our intended escape plan didn't work the way we thought, because we didn't move as quickly and smoothly throughout the water as we would on land. So we were kind of out of our element still, and maybe a bit overconfident, because we made that epic swim back from the Echo Isles without needing to stop on any land along the way. Because when I was going onto the Echo Isles, I had to kind of baby step. I was acting like, okay, I'm learning how to swim. I'm learning how to do this. So I have to touch every island first, like whatever, like skipping rocks almost. That crocolisk almost killed me. Then a thunder lizard moment happened where we made a rookie mistake for any hunter, is we allowed an enemy to be behind us, and that enemy was like, we didn't fight our way there, or it sort of respawned. And so the enemy's behind us, and then we go to fight somebody in front, right? Always watch the rear. when you don't have a pet. Oh, here comes the scary music too. They almost do this like if you're not meant to stay around in these houses for too long. I don't even think it's anything to do with the undead area, because it was happening even, look at that, happening in like Duratar and stuff, or like it'll happen if you stay around in the Goldshire in the Elwyn Forest house where the kids do the ritual. Look at that. That's so disturbing. Thunder Lizard, we kind of had at our back, so we didn't have a pet to watch our back like we do now. Yeah, we still went in guns blazing, by which I mean axe blazing, because we don't use a gun, of course. And then we aggro the guy with the Void Walker, and then he comes and he almost kills us, and then we try to run away from the encounter, but the rear isn't clear, so we have to tightly cut our way through that little crevice. And if we aggro the Thunder Lizard, it's over, because then guess what? I run away from that too, and then I aggro another one because the whole area is filled behind us. You never want to put yourself in those situations. It's a good learning moment. It's kind of like how when I do permadeath runs, anytime I fail one, I should commit that to memory. Like, that's a logical razor. Now in the future, I'll never die to that same thing again. Like in Somnium, oh, I didn't read the instructions, or a Danganronpa of how the stupid DDR mechanic works. Then we had a brush with Murlocs, which has some backstory to it too. But I remember seeing that same one mod, the rare spawn. I guess I didn't know whether it was a rare spawn or not, if it was just like a named enemy that you need to do for like a quest or something. But yeah, he came right when we were about to grab a chest, the ultimate bait. We get baited by the chest twice. The first time we do it, it aggroes like 3 Murlocs up on top. Well, first we have to fight our way to it. Once again, we're out of our element in the water despite our experience with it. You fight 3, which is strategic and difficult to do on its own, just, you know, using only melee, no pet at the time. Of course, that's why we're telling him these stories. And then we fight the way through those 3, but then we go for the chest, and it's the ultimate bait, right? They set a trap for us, just like how we set traps for others, or we will, as any true hunter would, like explosive trap, ice trap, etc. So they lay the bait, and then the 3 Murlocs from up above on the rocks, who are way out of my aggro range, that shouldn't aggro normally, but they're tied to the chest, of course. This is their whole trap and their plan. They all come after me, so that was a scary moment. Then we strategically pick off one at a time, and then right when we're about to get the chest, their true final trap comes into play. The trap within the trap, Maud himself appears, respawns, and almost kills me there too. And so then we just fight our way out of the beach, and we go all the way to the other side and like try to come around, and then we see like a sand shark, which is something I didn't even know existed. You could theoretically tame like not that because it's in water, but you could theoretically tame like, you know, elites and rare spawns and stuff too. Like I know the rake in Mulgore is supposed to be a good one. Just random hunter gossip. I don't know how even I know that exactly. But I wonder if that's really true for like the whole experience. Like, was it good at level 60? Like, what, I can't remember what people would use there. I've forgotten so much about the game, really. But like, this is my first time playing it in years since the re-release, and then before that, I hadn't played it really since the original game. So people act like maybe they know more than what they naturally would, because they either, you know, did the unofficial servers, or they, I don't know. So those were a lot of our close calls. We almost died to fall damage as well. Falling off a cliff to our death, which would be in the Forsaken Crypt area, like by Agaman Mills. And so that was just like we're trying to run away. So two scenarios where we're trying to run away, where that almost gets us killed. And the other ones because we're in water, so we overestimate our ability to swim away compared to running away. But the fall damage is in the process of trying to run away from something chasing us out of the crypt. So that was a big mistake. And then you should find a path that isn't so steep, and you should also find a path that isn't blocked by other enemies. Like when you get trapped in there, like the Razor Hill Ravine thing. I forget the name of it. And then the final close call was one that he witnessed himself. And that was, of course, not the greatest camera angle. This one's good. That was something he witnessed himself. So as that happened, it was a spider. And we, of course, took the brunt of the force, where it hit us for the Shadow Bolt for like 135, and we almost died from it. Because, of course, we're living to protect our pet, not to have it protect us, right? Like a true hunter a true hunter's pet hides behind them, whereas a fake hunter or a hunter with no honor hides behind their pet. That's the real point of it. And so that's kind of us trying to justify like our background, like, oh, we were always made fun of as a hunter because we didn't use a bow or a gun, right? As we were going through all our training and stuff. And it's amazing that we've even made it this far, given that limitation. But it was because of a trauma that now we're telling the pet about, obviously, that we had when we were younger, that our first pet ever, which will go unnamed as to what exactly it was, but we can fill in some of this lore later, so it won't be a retcon. You leave blanks on purpose, right? That's sometimes a good writing strategy. Is like our father was a hunter, our mother was a hunter too, so the father goes out and hunts with it, and we're there, kind of just watching him, and he accidentally, in trying to kill something, kills the pet by mistake and shoots it with his bow. So then we vowed at that point never to use a bow or a gun. So that's a good justification for the hard mode condition of not being able to use ranged. And then what else? That was sort of our background, our backstory. Sort of you can go through some of the rules of the run and sort of tell them. Good way to update people too, like on the ridiculous number of them, but I won't even remember half of them. Like we decided to be a miner, we decided to be an engineer, so that we have a lot of tricks and tools to make up for our lack of our innate hunter abilities that we would have, that anybody else would have. So many of them we can't even use at all, just because they require that forsaken bow, that wretched bow. We shouldn't say forsaken. This guy will look offended. Like, that's not a negative descriptive word. But no, since we lack that capability, we make up for it that way. It almost creates like a Batman RP type of thing, like where you have all these little tools in your belt, and you don't really have any sort of superpower or anything above and beyond. So you have to use them very strategically and stuff. And we can even pull stuff from a range with them. That doesn't count. Almost justifies having a pet with a range, so it's the ultimate oxymoron, where we're the melee hunter face tanking and the pet is hitting stuff from a range. So we're a melee only hunter, but that doesn't mean our pet can't pick up the slack and try to be ranged itself. Yeah, that's kind of our younger trauma. Now our older trauma became when the raptor ran away from us, because our reach exceeded our grasp as a hunter. We didn't yet know how to feed it and take care of it properly, but even our trainer and ourselves thought that we were experienced and capable enough to be able to handle that. And so we tame it, and we just are starving it out because we don't have the responsibility or the capability to do that. Of course, we would have to go to Orgrimmar, and I wasn't wanting to do that yet, just for the pacing of how I'm doing this, like in a very methodical order of where I go. But that's the price we pay for being this sort of novice who thinks we're better than we are, or that we're ready for a pet when we really weren't. So that was sort of a humbling moment. So it ran away, we lose it. And because of that trauma, we'll never get a raptor again. And so if this was to ever die, we wouldn't be able to get a wolf ever again. It's the whole family of it, not just, a warwick from Silverpine. It could be a wolf from the hinterlands or something, let's say. So, given that experience with the spider who almost killed us last time, we were risking our life and limb to protect the pet, of course. But it was a big shock moment, and I'm putting myself at major risk by going into that cave with all those nasty spiders and this rare spawn, the mother of all spiders. And so sometimes I wonder why I keep taking these risks. My other half looks at me, as they do now, very curiously too, licking its wound from our last near-death sort of, how would I describe it? I want to say this one like it's, hang on. I gotta say it right. My other half looks at me curiously too. Wait, how did I want to say it? I don't like to write stuff down, but I kind of went over in my head like a good little RP passage. Sometimes I wonder why I keep. No, I'm saying it too too scripted. I gotta say it like it's you're telling a story. Sometimes even I wonder. No, it's not even. Fuck. I'm better when I'm just doing stuff improvisationally. Sometimes I wonder why I keep taking these risks. My other half looks at me curiously too, licking its wound from our last near-death scuffle. By faithfully obeying my every command, it cannot hide its puzzlement. It's because of something my mother said before she left for her final hunt. In this world, anyone can simply survive, but you are never truly alive until you look death right in the eye. That's why a hunter may use tricks. That's why, as a hunter, we may use tricks and traps. We may even play dead sometimes, but we never hide from the challenge of a hunt. That's why we face it again and again. And that's sort of my gaming philosophy too. It's like anybody can just get from level 1 to 60, right, without dying. But it's a different matter entirely. You have to make the experience meaningful. Of course we're going to kill rare spawns. Of course we're going to try to do all kinds of stuff. I guess I could even try to kill elites, but at least when you have the pet... Oh, here comes the scary music again. Look how it comes up randomly too. Oh my god, that is actually terrifying. Like just for sitting in a peaceful house. This is what drives the undead crazy, I guess, and makes them scourge. And you might think it's because we're in a forsaken area. But that's not even true. Like, that's the scariest thing in the game right there. And yeah, that music would sort of correspond to when the Cthulhu kids do their shit in Elven Forest. So, what other experience could we update them on? The fact that we chose to be a miner. And so there's some pitfalls of that tell you sort of the harshness of the world. Just as there's only a limited amount of meat out there at any given time, there's only a limited amount of, I find your lack of meat disturbing. I could use that as like a, I should have used that for the raptor though. There's only a limited amount of mining nodes. So every time we get one, we realize that, oh, that's not a renewable resource. We can never get that same one again. There'll never be anything there. It's not like we're a dinky little herbalist where the plants will just regrow and you can just wait for it and pick it again and again. With this, you strike into the earth and then it's gone forever. Now, there's plenty of mines out there, but you have to put your life at risk to go find them. So that's sort of the rule that, you know, I'm sort of trying to explain it in the mechanical sense, but also in the RP sense. Like, once it's gone and you mine that, you can never use that same node again or that same general area. So I've tried to mentally keep track, but basically if I go back to Durotar, I won't mine anything there ever because we've been there enough and picked up enough of them, so I'll just generalize it to say that's enough. So here, for example, we haven't done anything in, like, Southern Silverpine, so those would be free to take, but for the most part, I've been here long enough already. And some of these areas are obviously needlessly dangerous, like anytime you're in the outside of a dungeon, like the Pyrewood Village outside SFK, and we've sort of done a lot of scenic water routes too, like we went along the coast and we saw Pyrewood from the other side, or like we went along Tirisfal and we how did I exactly do that? We went around Tirisfal, like here, to try to see if we couldn't come around some other way. But that's the irony of it. Even if I had been successful, I'm here and I'm like, I don't want to fight my way back up. There's too many Murlocs. We would have gone all the way around and then come up from the beach with more Murlocs there anyway. But they are truly the insects of the universe where you can just never get rid of them and there's always too many of them. That's not just them recycling enemy types, of course. It's realism, just like there's such a pest problem. But no, here we get stopped by like a sand shark, which we were sort of saved, I guess, by level 13 elite in the water that we might not have been able to escape from because the cliffs were so steep. So, of course, our innate talent as a hunter to be able to track a nearby beast alerted us to its presence. And, of course, it wasn't elite at that. It's not like RP the way you might think, like, oh, where I'm doing voices the whole time or where it's always like that. But it's a good way to sort of justify the rule set, too. I love that sort of tie-in that's relevant to the gameplay. So what other rules are there? You can't use that. You can't get nodes multiple times, right? You can't destroy stuff. So if you have a full inventory, you have to go to a fire and actually destroy it in the fire. And it has to be like a reasonable size. Like this one would work, like a bonfire, like a little torch arguably shouldn't work. You have to be very careful with what you do with your space. Every little thing matters. Right, like a hunter in hibernation. When the wolf goes in hibernation in the winter, then it has to really be careful with what it picks to... I don't even know if we're thinking more like a bear. It has to pick its resources very cleverly because then you can't go back outside and get more. So it's the same idea here, just like I really have to commit to what I have, or I have to destroy it in a very specific way. Stuff like tracking and, well, first of all, I can't track mines in the first place. And second of all, creepy music counter 3. I can't track mines at all. That's just off the table. You can only track innately as a hunter, and so you can track humanoids, undead, beasts, etc. But you can only change that tracking in a peaceful area where you have the clarity of mind that you're not like in a combat zone, by which I mean simply a town. And then on top of that, you have professions you can only do in town, of course, in a peaceful, safe zone area. Treat it like that. Non-combat zone, of course, anywhere could be a non-combat zone technically, but just, you know, for the sake of it, that makes a certain amount of sense. And let's see, what else can we keep it up to date so it'll know our whole experience, so it'll never question us, even as it was looking at us so curiously that way, as to why we insist on putting our life at risk every single time, every single day, because you're not truly alive unless you do that, right? You're just existing, you're not truly living. And the thrill and the challenge of the hunt is what makes a hunter whole and complete, not just their other half in the pet. Let's see, what other factors are there? Well, that was like a different song where it would like keep going like that. That is really weird. This is supposed to be like a peaceful, nice, you know, ASMR by the fireplace, but this creepy music just doesn't let you have it. Although I can't blame the undead area for that because of the simple fact that you do have the ability to hear that in other places in the world. That's almost something I never really thought about because I guess you don't hang around in the houses too much. And as a general standard, you always want to feel like you're making progress in your life. Like you never want to get stuck in one place. We're a wanderlust, we're a traveler, we're a nomad, right? We don't call any place home, and so we never sleep in the same place twice. Not the same zone, but the same general area. So as long as we find a house like this every time, we can find a place to rest. We're also like not a very sociable, outgoing troll, so we don't like to sleep amongst the general masses. In other words, in an inn or in a capital city. So it would always have to be a house out in the wild. Very fitting for us, like a little cabbage or cottage that you can hunt out of or fish out of. Like you see so many of those like in Skyrim, just a random generic NPC who's like a hunter who sells you meat or something. That's what like a lot of the structures actually outside of towns are, just that. What other considerations do we have? We learned how to swim out there by the Senjin Isles. That was a big testing moment. But we've been tested on that in a life or death context and not held up too well. We have to be careful to avoid those. Like, despite how much we're familiar with the way of water, we failed to. I guess it would play a little better if I was more blue, right? Then I could be like from Avatar. I keep using that reference. We learned the way of water, as every troll has to, as a rite of coming of age, rite of passage moment, just to be able to swim to the Echo Isles and come back. And then as a hunter, our rite of passage is to be able to tame a pet and have it really feel connected to us. So that's what we're going to show off next time. We just want to make sure that we're in line with it. So this actually sets up pretty well for what I was planning to do, which is we're going to wrap up in the top part of Silverpine Forest. Then we're going to go to Orgrimmar, learn the spells, sort of ingratiate the pet, do the pet training stuff. Then we'll go to the Barrens for the first time, and then we'll switch over to that side of the map. So I want to keep these sort of areas fresh, like where you're not just doing one side of the world or just one area at a time. I'll try to touch all of them at least a little bit. As far as the challenges that we're willing to take, as much as I'm talking about the sense of honor and like, oh, a hunter never turns down a challenge, we would never, like if we're going to skip a quest, it has to be something that we know would be completely unfair. It's not a challenge, it's just suicide. So there is still some sense of preservation there. Like, you can't skip a quest unless it's yellow. So for example, or like obviously if it involves elites or a dungeon, you can totally creepy counter 4. It's a dungeon or and I don't want to abandon quests either. So I'll try not to pick them up if it's an elite or a dungeon quest. But if it's neither of those, then I move on to the next zone if I only have yellow if I only have like yellow, orange, or red quests. But if I have green, I should make a point to try to do it. I'm going to say that this was not green when I left. And then, of course, this has nothing to do with that. Like, I'm not going to be forced to go in the city. In fact, I couldn't go in the city by that logic. Stone Talon Mountains is already sending me. I like how as soon as I enter each of these zones, they tell me immediately to go to the next one. Like, as soon as I get to Razor Hill, they give me a quest to go to the Barrens, because it's like, wow, you're already over-leveled. You're not meant to do the rest of Durotar, because I was already, like, level 8 or whatever. Or couldn't have been level 10 by then, but it was definitely too much. And, like, even here, as soon as I got to Terrisfall Glades, they told me, okay, you have to go to Silverpine Forest now, which I didn't do, because, again, I did this whole quest standard. So that's fine. So, like, let's say I was to leave Silverpine, but I would want to finish these. You will find them, Pyrowood Village to the south, but Pyrowood Village is where the elites are, so it doesn't say it, though. It must just be, like, on the way to it. The remedy, so, like, all these things I still have to do. This one I didn't do, I think, also because it was yellow at the time. And I think I was kind of just done with Durotar at that point. Yeah, that is a good standard to follow. Like, you can take on a challenge, but don't take on a suicide mission. Live to fight another day, and then you can come back. That's part of the strategy. Your whole life is the hunt. It's not just like you either succeed or fail or do it in a moment. It's something I used to do a little bit, like RP stuff, but I like sort of fitting it in without making it only about that. In fact, for the most part, I haven't done too much with this, but at least some of those I'm sort of reviewing, in fact, all the little tidbits over time. Like, what are some other rules? Of course, an analogy for life, like nothing good lasts forever or nothing is eternal. So just like we're all going to die of old age one day and stuff like that, the meat, even that I use to feed you, is going to spoil. So you have to realize that I have to constantly work to get it for it. I can't just hold on to it day after day and get it all at once. So it's always a constant burden and responsibility to take care of it and to find appropriate food for it. And we took a good stand against the cannibalism, even though in this land of the dead for a moment there, and in our trauma past of having lost the raptor to not feeding it, I was so fixated on trying to stop that from happening again, genuinely, not just the character, but actually really myself. I was thinking about that, like, I just got to feed it as quickly as possible. I don't want to fucking dick around, right? It took a while for it to run away, but just for the sake of it, I just immediately wanted to feed it and not have to worry about it. And so I killed one of his own kind in front of it, which it refuses to fight when you do that. And that'll apply to wolves and stuff too, not just the wargs. So, like, we'll be fighting level 40 wolves in the hinterlands, but this guy can't help me kill them. He'll sit there and watch, but he won't join in. That's the one exception. So we'll be about to die to one of them, and that'll be what happens. I can't wait till we get feigned death, though. You always want some kind of out, like vanish as a rogue or whatever the case may be. In fact, as much as I talk about, oh, the soulstone and the ankh shouldn't be usable because that makes it too easy, those mechanics are almost the same thing, because anytime you're about to die, you can use them and you'll get out of that situation. There should almost be some restriction on that too. Like, you can only cheat death 9 times, like the 9 lives rule. So you can only use feign death 9 times the whole playthrough. I might actually institute a rule like that. I don't know if it should be arbitrarily 9 like that, but that way you don't just spam it and get in situations like that too much, but I will no doubt use it. I did use Vanish as a rogue quite a bit. That's why the Priest and the Warrior were so hard, because they didn't have an out of that of any kind. If a Warrior gets caught out with 2 or 3 enemies and they're getting dazed, they're just dead. You could use your little fear, but that's about it. And that'll aggro more things potentially too. You can't really just get away. There's no easy out. The Priest, also Psychic Scream, can get you in trouble. You just literally have to run away. It's like the old Bioshock thing. Like, you just turn slowly and run away. There is no strafe. There is no little, roll or anything crazy that you can do. You just have to just deal with that. So those are most of the stories we have to tell. We lived an uneventful life in Sungeon Village, let's say, even though according to the map we hadn't even been there or discovered it, or the Valley of Trials. So you always wonder, like, where did these people come from? We're at the Valley of Trials to try to get tested on our merit and our mettle, but then we just you know, we've come there to show our worth. But where did we live before that? It makes even less sense, like with the gnomes. Like the gnomes weren't living in the starting area. I forget even what it's called in Dun Moreau, right? Don't the Oh wow, he's getting more loyal just by us telling him all these stories. So it's actually fitting for our experience, right? That's exactly what we set up to want to do. So it's that level of loyalty that we were shooting for, and now that we trust him so much to not let us down or make us look like a fool like the other one did, we were celebrating. We have a pet, we have a pet, we have a raptor, and then it leaves us before we know what hit us. So in this scenario, we'd basically be looking at it like, we go, we show off the pet, we formally train it in Orgrimmar, and then we'll be good to go on with our adventure. Basically, we're done with most of the stuff in Silverpine. We just have to turn it in, although it might give us a whole chain quest of who knows what else. Yeah, I like doing this every once in a while with episodes, and this was meant to be sort of a short one too, because I start till late some days, but this is just like the Orgrimmar episode equivalent. I'll have to do one of those for Undercity and Thunderbluff too, but I think I'll wait a while on that, or at least once I get friendly with this. But yeah, see, that'll be in another 5 to 10 episodes. So this is meant to be a very exhaustive, like 100% completionist sort of experience of the game, because I might not do another one of these, or who knows if, unfortunately, I hate to say it, but who knows if Blizzard will even keep these servers up for that long. At least keep one of them up. How hard is that? Like for BC, they even just totally turned their back on that idea. As soon as Wrath came out, they got rid of BC altogether. But meanwhile, they keep this. Like, they never have the perspective, like, oh, they know how much people love Classic, so they're going to keep Classic. But there'll be people who want BC too. Like for this multi-billion-dollar company, keep one server of each expansion ever just up. That's it, just one. One Warlords of Draenor server, one Cataclysm server. Like, it's not that hard to do. You don't have to develop any new content. Just do the same exact thing and just keep it in limbo, or keep rotating and resetting. But somehow they just sort of get in their own way, or they doubt that people really want it. You think you do, but you don't. Some sort of irony to it, though, in the sense that people didn't really want it, in the sense of, how people played it and sort of rushed through it. If you play every game the same way you would play a single player game or something like that, because sometimes like people would enjoy stuff, but they just rush through it so much. Like even Anthem, I would vouch for a little bit. Anthem is not a great game. In some ways, it's a disappointment. Obviously, there's too much emphasis on the multiplayer and stuff like that. The writing and the story isn't that good. So I'm criticizing it, but it's still a good game. Like, it's still mechanically good. There are some good things about it. If you were to play it like that, just like a normal single player campaign, like a Mass Effect type of thing, it's still okay. It's still decent. So it's not as bad. Like, it was on some list of like most disappointing games of whatever, the last 20 years or something. And it was on there. It's like, it doesn't stand out to me as being too bad. And the most important thing there really is the mechanics, like the flying and so forth. What other little tidbits of information could we feed to the pet on top of, wow, he really lasts a long time. He's not much of a glutton. Not like these filthy undead always cannibalizing each other. But what's ironic is it's only cannibalism in either the case of eating humans, because they used to be humans, or themselves and other undead. But it's not cannibalism if they eat like an orc or something. So even though, theoretically, okay, you shouldn't do that. That's the fact that you're eating humanoids, I suppose, but that's too broad. It just doesn't, it's not the same race as you, so it doesn't matter. There will be some consideration with that later, as far as, like, we do have the other stable slots to still fill up. So one of them I would want to be a ranged pet, not to make this guy feel neglected. But think about how annoying it would be. See, the permanent pet element is kind of good. Just like, if it dies, not only can you not revive it ever, that one's gone for good, but you also have to never get another one of the same kind. Not that you would necessarily even want to that much, but this one does feel like a little bit of a generic choice. But at least because I started as a troll, well, I mean, it's not like you can be an undead hunter, but it is kind of a unique one. And there's such a broad, amazing number of choices that you really do have. You have spiders, you have, the wolves, like, which ones did I come across that we chose? Like, I'm trying to make you jealous. Like, we had all these X's, and you're the one we ultimately chose as like our last resort. You're what we settled for after everything else failed. But it's more like the opposite. We had all these choices, but somehow we ended up choosing you. We had the crocolisk who almost killed me. That's almost a rite of passage, right? You should almost try to tame something. Whatever beast in the world naturally came the closest to killing me is the one that earned my respect the most, and that's the one I want to tame. So we had the raptor choice, we had the Durotar tiger, we had the crocolisks, we had the like some boars. We had that would be a really boring choice though. That's one of the worst. We have the scorpions. Then we have the spiders here. We have two kinds of spiders, the ones with hair and the ones without it, just the one that was the rare spawn. I was even asking for them, like, oh, I don't like the way these hairy spiders look. Where are the other ones? Just the, like, daddy long legs, the kind of smaller ones. And so there was only one of them in there, and it was exactly that one. So that's kind of weird to actually see those two mixed together like that. It's normally different caves, I feel like, that have the different styles of them. Is like their leader, I guess. So we've killed actually a lot of rare spawns because that's the one upside of this is like it's a dead server and so forth. So basically what you end up happening is just you have everything to yourself, so it's more likely that you will see rare spawns that you wouldn't otherwise see. We killed like Bane in Tirisfal. I was gonna say Elwyn. Bane is like a dark hound. We killed, oh man, we killed a whole bunch. Couple in Durotar, couple in Tirisfal, couple in Silverpine, or maybe only one in Silverpine so far, the spider. Wonder what our first elite kill is going to be. We can certainly make a point to try to do it. It's just, if you're going to do it, you can do it when it's grayed out and like 10, 15 levels below you. There's always these abilities that enemies have that can really screw you over. Now our pet is going to be totally on the same page and initiated with us, so therefore there'll be no confusion. You have to really trust somebody with all your inner secrets and so forth. So it opens it without making a noise when you are in the screen, right? Like, look, I'll do it. Yeah, it is quite powerful. It's actually going to be more powerful than we are without much time because, or it like already is. Just like if its highest stat is strength, stamina, I mean, offensively. Or you think of it more as an agility type of pet anyway. If you were to put it in a category. Best friend. Yeah, see, by doing this bonding and just sitting here and sharing stories, we've earned it, gone from faithful to our best friend. And so now we trust it enough to not only deal with our life, but deal with our reputation because we wanted to go there and actually show it off to the people in Orgrimmar as we, validate ourselves as a hunter. Because we'd be especially particular about that because we've been clowned so much our whole life for not being a true hunter, not using range, not doing this and that. So we've sort of overachieved the fact that we've even been set on this path and we overcame the Valley of Trials and all this kind of stuff that we're still considered a hunter despite that lacking. In before there's some sort of rare spawn that spawns here if you sit for an hour, like the Unseen. Where is that? That's like in the cemetery in Duskwood, right? Duskwood is a troll clown area. Like there's that patchwork guy who patrols, whose name I forget, the elite abomination. In the cemetery, there's like this house area. Well, there's more Ladim and stuff there too, but there's also there's like this little house that has the unseen enemy, which I don't know the whole lore story behind it, but it basically just one-shot me one time, just in a regular playthrough, not obviously that was like initial. The unseen. Let me actually learn about that because it's not like we're gonna come across or see even mysteries like that are sort of fun to unravel. Like I don't know how it works, but in fact I won't look it up. But yeah, I just know that from experience. So basically, whatever the house is, just don't fucking go in there. But what if there's an unseen here? How would I know? He could be sitting right there. So he's like a level 40, 50 thing that aggroes and just kills you, and I don't understand why because. Like, what does that have to do with anything? It might be for some quest, but it shouldn't be. Or it might have been like that. It spawns as part of some quest, like the Warlock has a quest there to do, but maybe the guy died to it or he just left it there, and then I go in there and I die. Because I'm even wondering, like, I'm looking at my combat log. This was, like, really early when I was first playing the game. And I'm like, what the fuck was that? It just like you go in the house and you just get one shot. There's nothing in there. It was like a cool, almost like jump scare moment. Like you're just going into this abandoned, empty, haunted house potentially in Duskwood. You don't know what to expect. I'm like, oh, there's nothing here, and then suddenly you just get killed. It was a really cool thing. Very dynamic when you don't know all the secrets of the game, which I still don't know, which is why I don't like when people are so jaded. It's like, who really would have figured all this shit out without 20 years of other people doing it and all this kind of stuff with unofficial servers and stuff. The reality is that people still don't know everything about it. There's still little nuances and weird combinations that you could do. Yeah, I almost want to do like a sort of class build thing later, like if I had all the time in the world, or if these servers do stick around forever, like arcane only mage or spirit warrior, which would have to be a troll, I guess, to actually work, because so it wouldn't just be hardcore classic, like trying to get every class from 1 to 60, which I haven't done that, period. Like, forget about the permadeath aspect. I've only gotten, at least in the context of classic, I'm not going to count like other expansions because they kind of ruin it with like the character boosts and stuff, but I only got those 4 classes to 60, which is obviously warrior, rogue, and priest, and then mage was my original. And mage was the only one that I really had in vanilla or BC. It was only in rat that I decided to make a warrior, and that became my main, and then the mage became the alt, and then the Death Knight, I did get a Death Knight to 80, but I guess the fact you start at 55 made me kind of forget about that a little bit. But I love the whole leveling experience of ganking people in Hellfire, but it's not even ganking because, you're the same level. It's just you were so broken. You could do 3-on-1, 4-on-1, 5-on-1, like all these kind of insane scenarios. So I think it knows enough about me. I think I know enough about it, unless it has some haunted backstory itself. And it really was just a spur of the moment decision. There was no special meaning to it. Yeah, it gives you a good idea of how long the food lasts too. It really does very well. We fed it like maybe 3 times in like an hour plus, so it's really not that big of a deal. So it's definitely, I love how it randomly had that loyalty thing happen too. Yeah, the only thing you might question is how can we have so much affection for it, but we're still not naming it? Is because that's our one little subconscious hint of, oh, I don't want to name it something close to us. We can name it after our mother or something, like we were talking about as she left for her last hunt. Last time we saw her, she left with such a sense of honor and dignity, but we don't want to do that because we don't want to get too attached to it either. He can kind of just chill by the fireplace, or we kind of wanted him to sleep on the bed, but he was kind of giving me trouble with that last time, so maybe he can sleep on the floor this time. Yeah, this was meant to just sort of be a bridging episode, and so the whole point of it is I just don't want him to despawn like if I go too far. Next time will be the Silverpine wrap-up and the Orgrimmar thing. Yeah, I think it has been about 5 episodes, right? Like every 5 or so episodes we should do one. Not exactly like this, but at least like one where I go to Undercity and talk to every NPC like I did with Orgrimmar, and then one where I go to Thunder Bluff, and that's kind of how I wanted this one to be. Yeah, in the other hardcore runs, I didn't do anything like this. I was just doing them just to do them. Like, I still took my time a little bit, but let's see if you'll be able to come to me. I guess he doesn't want to. He's happy by the fireplace. He's not really tired. He'll keep watch. Yeah, very uneventful episode. No action. The only action, in fact, there was strictly for the purpose of trying to feed the pet, which he is more than happily fed at this stage. And we get a little creepy music at the outro too. This would probably be my shortest episode yet, and certainly my most uneventful. But see how we're forced into combat still more dynamically. Everything in this episode was focused on the pet. We're trying to share the pet our backstory. We're trying to ingratiate ourselves with it better. We're trying to go out and fight for it just to feed it, not to do a quest or not to level up or anything like that. We had to fight just to kill those bears, just to farm meat for it. And then we see the loyalty level go up, so it was just a whole pet-focused episode. So despite how pointless and uneventful it might seem, that's fine. I'm impressed by how far actually I leveled up by doing this, because I basically didn't do hardly anything in Silverpine Forest. So between Like, really, wasn't I level 16 going in here or something? It was something like that. So I go from like level 1 to 15, 16, just between Duratar and so Turisfall. So those are both level 1 to 10 zones. It's not like, oh, I'm farming like, you know, I'm farming the Scarlet Monastery stuff and getting carried by somebody that way. Like, because you could get to a much higher level with the elites outside there. I just mean in general. It is like something you could just stumble upon too. Like, oh, I'm looking at this Scarlet area. How would I know it's a dungeon if it was the first time you were playing? And then you would get killed by some elite in the overworld. Those are kind of beginner traps too. But my favorite are the ones like, you know, the fucking random elites who wander around. It's one thing if they're in a fixed spot. Like, okay, Pyrewood Village has, you know, maybe that's why I just want to get the fuck out of Silverpine too. But I have a tendency to like leave some of these areas hanging. Like even Turisfall, I didn't do every single quest there, but or maybe I should do those on the way back. You have to be careful, like in that crypt area. You can take revenge on those clowns. It was so hard to fight my way through that. And in fact, the pet, we were really pampering the pet, in fact, because we didn't even have the pet fight. We're going out just to get its food. We're risking our life. We're going out from our comfy spot that we're sitting in just because we didn't really want to do anything combat focused, but we go out of our way just to get it meat. But then even while we're doing that, we're not forcing it to fight. It's just sitting there watching, chilling the whole time. And then we come back, we tell it some stories, its loyalty level boost up. Like, it's just all about that. And so we treat it about as well as we possibly can. It'll eat this fish right out of our hand too. But I don't think it even likes fish unless you count. That's like some sort of a vegetarian, vegan issue, right? Like technically seafood isn't meat, even though, I mean, it's a living thing. Or like, you know, even plants are living things. So how can you win that argument? It's just the optics of it. Like, I don't know whether you could actually feed that to him, but generally he likes the bear meat pretty well so far. I don't know whether you have to feed them like level appropriate stuff, actually. I kind of like not knowing stuff though too. That's one of my trademarks. Like people always say, oh, there's this easier way to do stuff, but I don't necessarily want to know that, or I want to figure it out more naturally. You know what I could almost do is like show some, like if I want some RP footage, this has nothing to do with the actual thing, but like, oh, this was our mother who is a hunter, and she could come up with a name for her. Like, what's a good troll name? We could even let the game decide. Lazy. It's got to be something that sounds sort of like a troll. I want it to be almost something short. Miri. Some of these are just out there. Does it actually account for that super well? Because, oh, that's a good one actually. Rasha. So this could be our mother, and we could reenact. Of course, if I die here, we could reenact what would go into how she died, but I won't do that. But just to sort of show her, you know, in some sort of RP sensibility. This is like her talking to us at some sort of angle. Let's go to like Senjin Village just to sort of show that. Although this could set up to actually have you die. Like, why make a second hunter? This is like the third hunter that we've made, but we would have deleted 2 of them just because the first one I was using the bow, and then I decided against it, and people wanted me to use the RP add-on and stuff. The hardcore add-on. That's the one thing I could never do, even in all my RP stuff, was I could never do voices. Can I maybe sneak there without dying? Seems unlikely. There's a whole bunch of scorpids and stuff. I don't want to have any deaths on this record, actually, unless deleting a character counts, but... I just want to show her in Senjin Village, period, just to sort of use maybe as footage if I show that story. You got to be very careful. It's gonna be like a boar. Gotta be a safe path you can take. I don't see anything. Level 5 is orange. I don't see anything else. Very, very dangerous. There'll be one that creeps up on the path. But it's important not to show. Like, she died on her last hunt, but this wasn't it, dude. She's just kind of chilling at Senjin Village. And of course, hunters all wear the same garb anyway, so it's pretty... Ooh, that kind of scared me, the water. Getting jump scared a lot in a stationary sort of position. Yeah, this was her regular life. And then we could show like her talking to us as we were a little kid. But then again, I don't know how many young troll type models like that there are. Yeah, actually, that's a good question. How many kid trolls are in the game? There are kids of other, like there are kids in Orgrimmar in like the orphanage place. Or like that could be her talking to us right there. Yeah, it doesn't work as well if it's not actually a child. Or like we could do it over some sort of avant-garde vantage point. Like, you know, she's talking to us, but we can't see who she's talking to. Like you show like this. Right, and then I could like cut off part of it and say, she's talking to us there, but you don't get to see who would be there or something like that. Or like even from above. Fuck. You gotta zoom out more so that... No, I don't want that part to be your ab, though. He should be talking to us right in front there. You kind of want that to be covered. Fuck. Right, so there's something obscuring. That's actually a good technique. There's something obscuring the view of where we would potentially be. Or it'd almost be fitting if it was the graveyard. Like we could be talking into there, and then you don't show who's there. Or if we were to have like our mouth moving as we do that. Like, kind of impressive that we even got here without an incident with the Scorpion or something. Like let's say we say something. Or you wouldn't want the text to actually show then. Oh, fuck. I could get myself killed by a Scorpion right there. Or you could even show it like this, like you're paying homage to the dead, something like that. Right, but that isn't us doing it, or I guess it could be us when we were younger. This doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Or she's paying homage to her old, I guess I never really noticed those. Paying homage to her old ancestor who died in very much the same way. Oh, are they like embalmed and stuff? Yeah, I never even really paid attention to these. Some of their weapons laid to rest. It would never be a bow, though. See, that wasn't a warrior laid to rest. That was a melee hunter, of course. And it would never be me. Couple axes there. Definitely more a fan of the two-handed axes than anything else, but we'll end up using pole arms. That'll be a hard mode condition, too. That would be our mother, like, I guess that we're looking at. Or it would have to be... Oh, there should be one for, like, every class. There should be one with a bow. Or I guess that could represent that, too. Right, like... there could be one for each class. So this is a warrior. This is a... Could be a hunter. I don't know. Oh, is that actually what it's meant to be? I never noticed this in so much detail. This would have to be a mage. This would have to be like a shaman, let's say. Mage and shaman. This could be also like a warrior, hunter, warrior. I mean, so much of it is just the same generic melee stuff over and over. What other imagery could we show here? I normally don't like to do it like this because it feels too contrived, but... And then she went out and she died, which I'm not actually going to simulate that part. Why can't you just get an angle of... Oh, yeah, like this could be perfect. Like she's talking to... Oh, man. The way it cucks you with the camera is annoying. Like, don't do that. I want... Yeah. I want it to be blocked. Man. That's so annoying. Yeah, see, it'd be like this. Where she's talking inside there, but you can't see who she's talking to. Or you could like just see the foot, but then it still seems like an adult. Something like that. Sort of imploring like the true meaning, imparting to us the true meaning of being a hunter. I've sort of forgotten about my fishing challenge a little bit too, but where I sort of wish to fish in every pool in the world. Yeah, that felt even more uneventful than usual, but understandable. So I'll let that be the name too. So we can name our pet after that. Although we've been not really said at what gender it is. Let's say the wolf is a female, so therefore it could be named after our mother as a sign of ultimate respect later on, once we truly come to terms with the fact that we love it so much we're not afraid to face the potential of losing it. But for now, it's just called wolf because we do have that paranoia, let's say. We're attached to it, but we don't want to show that or do it too much. That's like our one little holdout of being totally obsessed with it.